Kakadosh Boker Tov. We're continuing with the Hilchot of Mishloach Manot. Now we're going to be talking about Mishloach to a child, an elder person, a person which is above the age of Bar Mitzvah, and he's going to Sholeach Manot. He's going to give a Mishloach Manot to a child which is below the age of Bar Mitzvah. He's not going to be Yitzhak Chovah, and therefore he has to do it again. He has to send it to somebody which is above the age of Bar Mitzvah. Somebody that's an anin, which is miparnes min tzedakah, which means that a poor person, that he gets money from the tzedakah, he's also obligated in Mishloach Manot. And if he is an ani, and he does not have Sudat Purim, only this money, so therefore what he should do is he should do hachlafot. He switches it with another ani. And therefore by switching it with another ani, he's allowed to do that. Right? And that's also the ikar mitzad halacha. Right now, if you accept Mishloach Manot from your friend, you have no obligation to return it to him. Right? Nowadays, they have a minhag that they do achlafot, but technically speaking, not because somebody gave you Mishloach Manot, you're obligated to give them back Mishloach Manot. The entire concept of the Mishloach Manot, as we already brought down, was the two different reasons. So for here, there's no obligation to it. So here, again, the fact that you're coming and you're going to be accepting this Mishloach Manot does not mean that you're obligated to come and to return it. So that's very, very important. If somebody's going to come and they're going to be mochel achov, which means that somebody borrowed from you, whether it's going to be food and drink, and now he comes to return it to you on Purim, and he comes and he tells him, I forgive you. So now you're going to be Yotzei Chovah with the Mishloach Manot, but if it's going to be Chov of Ma'ot, if it's going to be of money, and then he comes and he tells him, I'm going to forgive you your loan, there you're not going to be Yotzei Chovah because it has to do with the money. Now, to do with if somebody's going to send Mishloach Manot to somebody that's very, very important, because he says because there's no hana'ah without achila, which means that the hana'ah has to be that they're eating from it. So if there's not going to be any eating from it, there's not going to be, you're not going to be Yitzhak Chovah. Now, to do with the Mishloach Manot also, there's going to be differences of opinion to do with, do you do it through a shaliach, or should you send it through yourself? So because of that, if you're going to take the Mishloach Manot, right, and you're going to take it yourself, you're going to be Yitzhak Chovah, you do not need to send it through a shaliach davka. And the same halacha would apply if you're going to send it through a shaliach, even if it's going to be through a katan, shelo yigel mitzvot, or even through a goy, that they don't have shlichut, also you're going to be Yitzhak Chovah. So whichever way you do it, you are going to be Yitzhak Chovah. If you remember, we did mention in the past, it's better to do both in order to be Yitzhak Chovah all the opinions, which means that one you do yourself and one you do through a shaliach. But mi'ikar adin, both of them you're going to be Yitzhak Chovah, whether you're doing it through yourself or you're doing it through a shaliach. That's not even really a real shaliach. I mean, you're sending it through a goy, you're sending it through a katan, you're still going to be also Yotzei de Chovah. If right now you send Mishloach Manot and the other person forgives you for it, he doesn't want to accept it, so therefore he comes and he says, right? He says, "Yachzir hasholech v'yekei mitzvah Mishloach Manot l'adam acher." So do it with somebody else. Why? Because it could be that maybe you're not Yotzei Chovah from the fact that the person he rejected it. So because he rejected it and you weren't Yotzei Chovah, it's better that you're going to do it with somebody else, and there's not going to be a problem, right? If you're going to send it anonymously, so here Rav Ovadia is posek, you're not going to Yotzei Chovah, you have to send it again. And this, if you remember, we just mentioned the halacha. Why? Because according to what we just mentioned, it makes sense, right? Because according to what we just mentioned, right, it makes 100% perfect sense about the entire concept that it has to be marbeh shalom, and therefore since it has to come and increase the shalom, if you're going to send anonymously, you didn't do anything. So therefore you have to send it to somebody else. You're not going to be tzedek chovah, right, with that. What happens if you send the Mishloach Manot and he wasn't in the house, and then the person only received it afterwards, but he didn't know about it on the Purim in itself? So he says over here, in such a case, the sholeach is not going to be Yitzhak Chovah unless it's known to him on Purim. So that's very, very important, which means it has to be known to him on Purim that it was actually sent to him. If he was out of the house and then he only came back afterwards, sometimes it happens, you come back after the Seudah, all of a sudden you see a whole bunch of Mishloach Manot on your door. If that was their Mishloach Manot, since you didn't know about it until afterwards, you're not Yotzei Chovah. So it's important, right, the person that was sending was not Yotzei Chovah. So it's important that a person should just pay attention that whoever you're giving it to, you're giving it to them on Purim and they know about it on Purim. Not that just stam that it's going to happen. If you're going to send Mishloach Manot to a goy, you're not going to be Yotzei Chovah because he's not part of Re'echa, Re'ehu. Mishloach Manot ish le're'ehu. And if you're going to send it to somebody which is Mechalel Befaresia, right, if he's Begeder Yodea Robano Moredbo, so therefore you're not going to be Yotzei Chovah. But if he's going to be a tinok shenishba, so then you are going to be yotzeh Yedei Chova, but he says lechatchila you should still send it to somebody which is Yirei Shamayim, which is Shomer Torah or Mitzvot as well. Okay, so now if somebody did the Mishloach Manot before Kriyat HaMegillah, he is going to be Yedei Chova. The seder is not me'akev, but if you remember, we did mention it has to be done during the day, but even before the Kriyat HaMegillah, it's still going to be okay. Now it says over here like this: when we're talking about the Yikar Mitzvah Mishloach Manot, is to send 2 manot. Lecha techila, it's better to send the 2 manot bevat achat and not one after another, because that way it's going to be the chashivut is nikeret yuter. Nevertheless, even if you did send 1 to a person in the morning and then 1 in the afternoon, you are going to be yotzei the chova. To do with when we're talking about let's say candies or things that, let's say he only eats meat and he doesn't eat any dairy products because he has one of these problems that he cannot have any dairy. So the minhag is nowadays that we also send different sweets. And if you're going to send sweets and the person cannot eat it for health reasons, whether he's got diabetes, whatever the case is, right, you're still going to be Yitzhak Chovah, the Mishloach Manot, because they're Ru'im Livnei Beto, which means they're fitting for the people of the family. And therefore the same halachot apply that if he cannot eat milk, let's say milk, but you're sending him milk, or the opposite, he cannot eat meat, but he could only eat milk, still you're going to be Yitzhak Chovah in these cases as well. You're not going to be Yitzhak Chovah if you're going to send money. It has to be a food product. So that's very, very important, right? You are going to be Yitzhak Chovah if you send it, whether it's going to be to your rabbi or to your parents, you're going to be Yitzhak Chovah as well. Now, to do with the mitzvah of the Mishloach Manot, which is the value of the Mishloach Manot, it has to be 2 manot which are yikarot v'chashuvot. Yikarot v'chashuvot means it has to be very expensive and important, according to the erech of the noten, according to what you are able to give, in order to show the re'ut. And therefore it should also be good that it's going to be lefi erech ha-mekabel, to the one that is receiving. That's why according to what Rav Ovadia Yosef is saying here, which is very important, the halacha is that a person has to give mitzad noten and mitzad kabel according to the chashivut, according to the importance. So that is very, very important when you're giving the Mishloach Manot as well, in order to make sure that you're doing it. Again, kol ha-marabeh Mishloach Manot is going to be merez meshubach, but you're going to be mareh chiba ben adam lechavero. But nevertheless, still, once you've done the halacha, you've done the halacha, and there's also the mitzvah matanot levyonim, so you should also pay attention to that. But Zat Hashem, tomorrow we continue with the halachot of matanot levyonim.